I know that sitting among the Sangha, there are many senior monks and nuns. And for me, I still consider myself a baby in the practice. We walk for him, we eat for him, we build brotherhood and sisterhood for Thai to help his recovery. And Thai is also breathing for us. The other day, I came to see Thai in the hospital, and people were amazed that he didn't need a life support to breathe, and he breathed very strong, very strongly. And they say that his breathing is actually better than our breathing. So I know that Thai is trying his best to breathe for all of us, to keep all of us alive too. We feel very supportive. For me, I love to practice with poems and songs. When I first became a novice, Thai already planted that seed. He gave me his poem books and say, "Oh, enjoy it, my child." So each day I read about 1 or 2 poems, and after a while, I think my seeds of poetry writing were watered, so I began to write a lot of poems, and I actually printed it into a book just to share with some of my close brothers and sisters. So I think my brother and sister would like me to share about finding our true home, touching our true nature. When I first came to Plum Village in 1994 to attend my blood brother's ordination as a novice, at that time Plum Village was very simple. If you have heard Thai Pháp Ấn Dharma talk the other day, it was like that. The road is still muddy like right now. We live in very simple houses. And at that time, my first impression ever was Sister Giới Nghiêm. She sat in front of the dining hall of the sisters, and she was she was preparing the vegetables, a basket of vegetables fresh from the garden. And it reminds me of the people in the country of Vietnam, sitting there and preparing the vegetables. It is so simple, and she wear very simple, I think, faded clothes. And that first impression really struck me to see how simple the life in Plum Village can be. And at that time, I remember my mother and I, we were staying with about 10 other retreatants in the room that is, I don't know what you call them. It's like a mud room before you enter the J Candle Hall. And we were quite squeezed, but it was a happy time. And during that time in Plum Village, Thai held the Great Ordination. I think it's called the Hương Tích Great Ordination. And there was the 5 mindfulness trainings transmission. And it was the first time ever that I get a chance to listen to the 5 mindfulness trainings in a very new light. And I felt that my whole being was open, and my consciousness was open, and something very powerful was touching my heart. And I couldn't stay inside the hall anymore. I have to go outside, and I cry a lot. Not because I feel sad, but because I was so moved to listen to the 5 mindfulness trainings. Because I guess it spoke to me how my life could be, how I could live my life. And there was a direction for me to go to. So that was my first, you can say my first love with Plum Village. After that summer, I think I came to Thai and I said, Thai, I want to ordain. And Thai said, okay, come back, and when you're ready, you can ordain. In Plum Village, in the old days, they have a saying in Vietnamese, it's làng hồng đi dễ khó về, trai thành sư chú, gái thành sư cô. So, like, it's very easy, or maybe not so easy, for you to come to Plum Village. But then it's hard for you to leave. And somehow the men become monks and the lady become nuns. And I think that was true for many of us. We came to Plum Village for the first time, and second time, or maybe the third time. And then we just fell in love with the practice, and we wanted to practice more on a regular basis, so we decided to be a monk or a nun. So I'm going to share with you about the sutra that the Buddha gave. It's called the Sutra on Knowing the Better Way to Live Alone. I know that many of us have heard of this sutra. It's in the Majjhima Nikaya, number 131. And the Buddha was giving a talk to the monk named Thera. He was a monk who practiced very diligently, but everything he does, he would do it alone, like sitting meditation alone, going on Armstrong alone, walking meditation alone, and so the other monks were not so sure whether he's practicing the right path, so they shared with the Buddha, and the Buddha invited him to come and just have a chit chat with him. And the Buddha shared with him that to live alone doesn't mean you have to be living or practicing separate from the Sangha, or you have to practice in solitude. And there's a better way to live alone. So the Buddha shared about living alone mean we are not carried away by we are not dragged into the past. We are not pulled away by the future. And we are not being carried away by what's happening in the present moment. So the Buddha gave more clear instruction of how we could live alone. And living alone means that we don't live with a shadow. It means that we're living here, but our mind can be dwelling in the past, for instance. Many times when we have some trauma in the past, it's very easy for us to go back to that past and to keep telling the same story over and over. And if our past is also beautiful, but now it's not so beautiful, we also tend to come back to that past and kind of retelling the story over and over. And we cannot taste what's happening in the present moment. So the Buddha gave that talk in order to help the monk Thera and also other monks to see a better way to live alone. So that is the teaching on living happily in the present moment. I will write the is Drista Dhamma Sukha Viharin, and I apologize for not putting the accent on it. So Drista is to experience consciously, and Dhamma is things. So Drista Dhamma means that we experience, we being mindful of what's happening in the present moment. And Sukha is happiness, and Viharin is dwelling. So it means that the teachings on dwelling happily in the present moment. And when we dwell in the present moment, we can be in touch with many things that is happening within us and around us. Sometimes in the West, people ask the monks and nuns, if I have a lot of suffering, how can I dwell happily in the present moment? And they say, does that mean that it's an auto-suggestion? We try to tell ourselves that, you should be happy, but in fact, you're not really happy. So it's not really about that. So dwelling in the present moment means that we are there with what's happening within us, and to recognize it. But we can recognize it with a smile. We don't have to suffer. And then with the energy of mindfulness, we can embrace and calm our suffering, our emotions, and then learning ways to take care of it. While I'm staying here, I know that the sisters from Lower Hamlet, they're under renovation. So I think they're trying their best, but the mud is still there. So when I first came, from New York, and everywhere is like clean. And then I looked around, and everyone was tucking their pants into their socks and walking so mindfully. And then I understand why, because if you don't walk mindfully, you will have mud all over. So I have a new kind of like insight. They say that pain is inescapable, but suffering is optional. So I practice with mud is inescapable, but suffering is optional. Because I know that I cannot avoid the mud, but whether I suffer or not, that is really up to me. So many times that the suffering could help us to learn about ourselves, learn about our bodies, our mind, our perceptions, our consciousness. There's a story in Asia about this family. They are farmers, and they only have one son. And their son helped them to cultivate the land, to tend the horses, take care of everything. And then one day he fell off the horse and broke his leg. And so his parents were very unhappy, and they complained and say, "Oh, why is this happening to us and to our son? And he cannot help us anymore with the farm." But then after that, the king gave the order to send all the young men to war. And because the son broke his leg, so he was exempt from the military. So, sometimes the misfortune could be something that is fortunate. I think Thai, right now, he's not manifesting with us. He's in the hospital, but I think it brings out something more fruitful. It helps the Sangha to be stronger. It helps the Sangha to come together, and it helps us to practice better. And I can feel that energy within the Sangha here. So when something bad happens, it doesn't mean that it's really bad. There's a saying that every day is a good day, every moment is a good moment, and every action is a good action, and every thought is a good thought. That doesn't mean that everything you say is, totally good. But it just means that we have to look at things in a more wholesome way, and not just look at one side of the coin and to say that, this is bad or this is good. I like to draw another picture on the board to explain more about this. So usually Thầy would draw a circle, but I like to draw a garden. So this is the garden, and this is the soil. And this is the topsoil. And in the Buddhist psychology, our consciousness is like a garden. We have 8 consciousnesses, and the base consciousness is called alaya. Or the store consciousness. And the alaya is like the garden that keeps all the seeds underneath. And then the top is what manifesting up here. So that's our mind consciousness. So this is what manifesting on top of our mind. And in this layer is the manas. So we have all the seeds down here. They call bija. The seeds. Alaya is the store consciousness. And when something happened to us or an event happening, then the seeds are water and it manifests upon our mind consciousness. And that's what we see as feelings, as perceptions, as thoughts, and so on. So when we are mindful and we can touch the positive seeds, so we have about 51 seeds, or they call mental formations. And our teacher have invented about 10 or more new seeds for this DNA. So among the 51 mental formations, we have the positive and the unwholesome seeds. And some of them are neutral, they're not determined, because it depends on the circumstance that they can be positive or negative. So when we practice mindfulness, we enable ourselves to recognize what is manifesting in us. Let's say somebody says something that makes us unhappy, so the seed of unhappiness will manifest up here. And let's say the day is beautiful and we feel happy, and the the seed of joy is water in us, and it came up here. So our practice is to recognize what seeds are being watered in us. And if it is little bit late that that the seed is already watered and it causes us suffering, then we take care to embrace that seed and to calm that mental formations and allow it to go back down as a seed. And then we can be more mindful what seeds we water, and we try to water the positive seeds every day, if possible. Recently in Blue Cliff, we have a retreat for veterans, and at first they came with a lot of suffering and a lot of heaviness inside their heart. And we could feel the energy the first day. It was very heavy. They could not look at anyone. They could not speak to anyone. They're just like shutting down. And the second day, they start to open up a little bit and to receive the teachings and receive the Sangha energy. And we offer a lot of treatments like massage, yoga, to help treat the veterans. And then the third day, they start to open up, and a lot of things were pouring out. A lot of suffering that were hidden underneath have a chance to come up. And we could feel that the energy is much lighter after the second and third day. And there was so much transformation. And when they share about their stories, we also felt like it's our own story. Because we know that the happiness and suffering of one person is also the happiness of suffering and suffering of everyone else. If you suffer and you live in a family or in a community, there's no way that everyone else could be like totally happy. So, we were there with the veterans and feeling their suffering and also embracing it with them. So when we are being mindful, we can dwell in the present moment and we can touch what's happening within us and not to suppress. Because many veterans, when they come home, they tend to take a lot of antidepressant pills and drugs, alcohol, and many things, many distractions to block that suffering. And sometimes it can be very difficult for their family to help them because they don't open up at all. So, after attending the retreat in Blue Cliff, many veterans, feel like, finally they come home to themselves and to be able to touch truly what's inside. And at the same time, we also try to help them to touch the beautiful things in them. We have some art workshop where they can draw and paint and express what's inside of them, their happiness, their joy, their peace, their story. And after they do that, they feel much happier. So in the second mindfulness training of the 5 mindfulness training, there's a part that quote like this: I am aware that happiness depends on my mental attitude and not on external conditions. And I can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that I already have enough conditions to be happy. So it's very important for us to know that we already have enough conditions to be happy. It seems very simple and very easy to understand, but somehow not all of us can do that. Included, the monks and nuns included. I remember one time I was living far away from Plum Village, and somehow I always end up in a new place. I was living here for a few months as a novice, and then we bought New Hamlet in '96. So about a number of us, 10 of us, we came to New Hamlet to set up the new monastery there. And I remember Brother Pabdo is also coming up there to help us to make the beds for the nuns. And then, 2 years after, or 3 years, in '99, we have the Blue Cliff Monastery. So I also volunteered to come there to build the place with Sister iNghie, Sister Abbess of Deer Park, and a couple more sisters and brothers, Brother Phap Yung and Brother Phap Kham and Thầy Yak Than. So when we build a new Sangha, there's always something new, and it's always something you have to work with one another. And we clash, and then we solve things, and we begin anew, and we do all kinds of things. So at a certain point, I didn't feel so happy. So Thầy sent me a poem, and I'll read to you in Vietnamese. Hạnh phúc nào hơn hạnh phúc hôm nay? Em không phải chạy tìm vì nó có ngay đây. Nhận diện nó thì nó liền có mặt. Mơ ước trong cầu thì tự khắc nó bay. It says that what happiness is greater than the happiness today? I don't have to search far away because it's right here. And if I can recognize it, then it will be right in front of me. And if I dream of something else far away, then it will disappear. Maybe I'll sing that song to you. I try to bring Thầy with me. Because every time I make a new song, I sing to Thầy first. Hạnh phúc nào hơn hạnh phúc hôm nay? Em không phải chạy tìm vì nó có ngay đây. Nhận diện nó thì nó liền có mặt. Mơ ước trong cầu thì từ khắc nó bay. Hạnh phúc nào hơn hạnh phúc hôm nay? Em không phải chạy tìm vì nó có ngay đây. Nhận diện nó thì nó liền có mặt. Mơ ước trong cầu thì từ khắc nó bay. So sometimes what prevented us from being happy or dwell in the present moment is because of manas. Manas is one of the consciousness that tend to hold on to things, grasping, and say that this is myself, this body is myself, these feelings are myself. are my own. These consciousness are my own. And they tend to think that, these things will never change. So when people have depression, they dwell a lot in the past, and they believe manas. They believe all the story that manas tell them. Maybe you have grown up with your parents or your friends or some people you know who might not water the good seeds in you, and they tell you some kind of story when you were young, say, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. And then growing up, you believe these stories and you think they're true. Some people even, they might suffer some abuse, and they might not remember the whole story, but they tend to invent some more stories, and then over the years they keep coming back to these stories, and you believe that these stories are true. I think that if I believe in my own story, I would never become a nun. When I was younger, I always go to the temple and I respect and I offer donations to the monks and nuns. And I always think of them as somebody very high, that I can never become one. And then one day, at that time I was studying in California to become an elementary school teacher. So I got my degree, and then I said, hey, why don't I become a nun? If I can become a teacher, then I could become a spiritual teacher as well. So when that idea came up, I started to believe it. And I actually, my mom, she knit me a hat. It's kind of like the hat the nuns are wearing. And I also have my áo tràng, which is the long robe, the gray long robe. And every day I would put on the áo tràng and I put on the hat. I tuck all my hair inside. And I look into the mirror and I say, do I look like a nun? Or, if I become a nun, do I look okay? So I think I do that for 2 or 3 years before. Now Thầy also has a very strong will. He doesn't give up. He doesn't believe that, this is it. Like he have to stop the fighting. He still try to breathe every day to maintain his spirit and his health. And I heard that the doctors and nurses were surprised at his result. They couldn't believe that he healed gradually. But of course, things are changing all the time. So, the doctor said that, they know so much about the brain. But this is the first time they see that the brain can do such a thing, like Thai, to overcome that critical time and to heal. And so Sister Chankong said that, it's not only Thai, behind him, many bodhisattvas and many people, sending energy to him and want him to live. So, he has a lot of people in him to help him go through. And I feel that we are so fortunate, and Thai is so fortunate to have such a huge international Sangha, and to have so many students that love Thai, and we also were loved by Thai very much. I think Thai's first lesson to teach me about mindfulness is by his way of life. when I sit down with him, you know, he will not say much. He would just say, "Drink your tea." And when I first became a novice and I have a chance to attend Thai in the Upper Hamlet with Sister Phúc Nghiêm and Thai Pháp Niệm, at that time I was very naive, you know. I didn't take the advantage of being with Thai and to learn about all the teachings and everything like that. You know, I just drink tea with him. I just enjoy a meal with him, with my brothers and sisters. And you know, when Thai is in his room, preparing his Dharma talk, you know, I would go outside in front of Thai's hut, and I carry a stack of paper with me, and I write my poems. So at that time, I wrote a lot of poems, thanks to that. But I didn't really know how to be truly present with Thai. But Thai always find a way to be truly present with us. I remember one time he took us around to the Plum hill, and at that time it was summer, so the plums were ripening. And he said, "Take off your straw hat." So we all take the straw hat and, you know, ready. And so he started picking the plums and put it in the straw hats. And, you know, he said, enjoy it, it's very good. So Thai also picked one and, you know, eat it very mindfully. So that's how I learned to be mindful. And when I first practiced, I also don't know how to practice. Like when I do sitting meditation, I would close my eyes and I would focus so hard that I have some kind of headache, and my ears were ringing, and you know I couldn't concentrate. So I say, you know, sitting meditation doesn't work with me. I only like walking meditation. So I asked Thai, you know, how do I do sitting meditation, because it doesn't work for me. And so Thai say, you know, one day we were sitting at his hut on the deck, and we looked out to the beautiful French countryside. And Thai say, "Look, child, look at that scenery." So when you do sitting meditation, it's like you're sitting in front of a TV. Whatever's happening in the TV, you just look at it, you smile to it, you recognize. And so I felt more at ease, and Thai say, you know, nature is a big television. So when you do sitting meditation, you get to watch the nature of your mind. And whatever is happening, you just recognize and smile to it. And that's how I came to the practice, through Thai ways of very simple direction and creative ways. I think each of us, we receive the teachings from Thai in different ways. Thai had many ways to teach each one. I think one sister shared with me that the reason why she ordained, because Thai gave her a lot of work. Because Thai know that she loved to work. So one day he invited her to come to his hut, and he said that, "What are you doing outside?" And she was sharing about all the work that she's doing outside. And Thai say, "You know, I have a lot of work here to do. Could you please come and help me?" So, you know, that's how she gets stuck being a nun. So, you know, he has so many ways. There's a Zen story about, you know, some retreatants came to see the master, and one of them asked the master that, what is the essence of Buddhism? And the Zen master didn't say anything, and after a long while he just said, "Did you eat your breakfast?" You know, or did you drink your tea? It means that, you know, have you done those things mindfully and fully? Have you lived your life? That is the essence of Buddhism. It's not about trying to find all the theory and teachings of Buddhism, but it's really like to apply the teachings and to make it alive for you. When I was young in my practice, I also did many clumsy things, I was chopping vegetables, And of course, Thầy know I'm chopping vegetables. And so he came by. He always popped up at unexpected time. At that time, Thầy has a lot of time, so he just go around the hamlet. And I was cutting the vegetables, and Thầy said, "Child, what are you doing?" And I said, "Cutting the vegetables." And then Thầy shook his head. And then, later I learned from my elder brothers and sisters that I should say, "I'm breathing." But many times like that, I keep saying what I'm doing, and I'm not really saying I'm breathing. And I get caught every time. So, one day I tried to cook something for Thầy, and I didn't know how to cook very well, so, and I didn't know what Thầy liked to eat. So I asked Thầy, "What do you like to eat, Thầy? I could prepare for you." And Thầy said, "Oh, anything, as long as you do with love and, with a lot of love and mindfulness." And so I make this bean dish, and I think I don't know how to soak the beans. So it become very tough, And Thầy still smile, he still smiled at me. He didn't say "Oh, you don't know how to cook, you shouldn't cook for me anymore." But he just said, "Learn from Sister Phúc Nhi." So after that, I think I gave up on cooking for Thầy. So the practice of vipassana is to stop and to look deeply and to find a way for us to live happier and more peaceful. When we stop, then we can recognize what is in front of us, and we can be mindful of it and to embrace it. And then we can calm it down and to look deeply into its nature, to find the root causes. And then it helps us to find a way out. I think all of us have a spiritual teacher within us. We just have to touch that teacher. And each day, the teacher will reveal to us the insights that help us to go on our path. I think Thầy is an extraordinary teacher that who guides us on the path, but we also need to be our own teacher at a certain time. Especially if we live far away from Thầy, then we usually have to be in touch with the teacher inside more than the teacher outside. And in that way, we can help to transform ourselves. We can transform our habit energies. And we can be in touch with the beautiful qualities that are in us and to help them to grow in our garden. Science proved that the human tendency is, either flight or fight. If in the old days, our ancestors, when they see a tiger, they could choose either to run away or to fight with that tiger. So somehow that habit energies is always in us. We still have some of that. When we meet a situation or a circumstance, sometimes it's not so important, but we have to fight so much, and it's not necessary. If we can just coming back to ourselves, coming back to our breathing, and to learn to stop, then we can recognize and we can see the way out. We don't have to fight so much. I think in meditation, the more we practice, the more we realize that humans also have another tendency, and that is to rest and to heal. Of course, there are more tendencies that we have, but that is also innate in human nature. That we come back to ourselves, we rest and we heal when we need to do that. We don't need to always fight or flight. And I think Thai is doing that for all of us now. Last year, I get to go with Thai to Google and to see the place where they send everything worldwide. And Thai share the talk on learning how to be creative, to be to stop and everything. And they call stopping I pause. They have this sign, I pause, everywhere. And I think the generation of this DNA is the I generation. In America now, many of the high school, they start to just use iPad instead of carrying all the books and materials. All the students will have their iPad and they work from there, and the teacher will just teach them from there. And sometimes they don't even have to teach much because the iPad can teach you. So now the children come into our center, they also have all these gadgets. And in the old days when we had children program, they're so enthusiastic in it. But now some of them are getting bored because it's not so interesting as all these gadgets. So sometimes we have to take that away. And the sad thing is that many parents in the States, I don't know in France, they offer reward time for children as time to go on your iPad. Like, you can use my iPad or my iTouch for half an hour a day after you clean your room. And it becomes something very very normal to the children of this day. So when they come to the monastery, we try to help them to go outside to play and to interact with one another, so that they don't just doing all that thing on their gadgets. So the children nowadays, because the parents are quite busy, so sometimes they would just stay home and cover up their loneliness with these distractions. So we have to find a way to help the future generation to stay in the present moment. It's very important. I think this is a hot spot. So in the fifth mindfulness training, there's a part where it said that looking into how we consume the four kinds of nutriments, edible foods, sense, impression, volition, and consciousness, we come back to see how we consume. Are we consuming these foods in order to cover up what's inside of us? Or are we consuming in a way that can help the planet, can help our well-being and the well-being of our family. And to come back to the present moment, to be in touch with the healing and refreshing elements, and not caught by the past, pulled away by the future, or by the emotions that's happening in the present moment. And not to cover up loneliness, anxiety, and suffering by losing myself in consumption. So, Thầy have pointed out very clearly for us how to practice. It's really up to us how we can practice as individual and as a sangha. But with friends in the practice or with the sangha, they can help us to have more energy to practice them. So I'd like to pause here, and maybe I'll invite Brother Thầy Pháp Niệm to sing us a song of the sutra on knowing the better way to live alone. Thầy Pháp Niệm, will you come up and share a song for us?
Để sang ra này, anh đi kích năng. It's okay. It's good to be kicked up sometimes. So this song I didn't write it actually. It just come up when we were chatting in prayer formation hall in Upper Hamlet, somewhat in 1995 or something. So anyway, I will read the gatha in the Sutra Discourse on Knowing the Better Way to Live Alone. Just the gatha. Do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. The past no longer is. The future has not yet come. Looking deeply at life as it is, in the very here and now, the practitioner draws in stability and freedom. We must be diligent today. To wait till tomorrow is too late. Death comes unexpectedly. How can we bargain with it? The sage calls a person who dwells in mindfulness night and day, the one who knows the better way to live alone. I will sing in Vietnamese. Actually, Brother Michael taught him to that community. He wrote it in English. It's been a long time. I haven't seen it in English. I've seen it in Vietnamese. Đừng tìm về quá khứ, đừng tưởng tới tương lai. Quá khứ đã không còn, tương lai thì chưa tới. Hãy quán chiếu sự sống trong giờ phút hiện tại. Kẻ thức già an trú vững chãi và thẫn thơi. Phải tin tiếng hôm nay kéo ngày mai không kịp. Cái chết đến bất ngờ, không thể nào mặc cả. thì mẫu ni gọi là người biết sống, người biết sống một mình. Đừng tìm về quá khứ, đừng tưởng tới tương lai. Quá khứ đã không còn, tương lai thì chưa tới. Hãy quán chiếu sự sống trong giờ phút hiện tại. Kẻ thức già an trú vững chãi và thảnh thơi. Phải tin tiếng hôm nay kéo ngày mai không kịp. Cái chết đến bất ngờ, không thể nào mặc cả. Người nào biết an trú đến ngày trong chánh niệm, thì mẫu ni gọi là người định sống, người định sống một mình.
Thank you. That was very beautiful. I think Thầy Bab Nims has a lot of spiritual energy, so now his singing is more strong. So I'd like to conclude by sharing that if we can practice to come back to ourselves with the practice of mindfulness in our daily lives, to stay in the present moment, yet at the same time we can embrace and take care of the past and of the future. And if we can touch the teacher, touch Christ, touch the Buddha within ourselves, we can find our true home, we can find our true nature, because it's always there, it's never been lost. There's a song, You Are So Beautiful. I think everyone is so beautiful. How can anyone ever tell you that you are less than beautiful? How can anyone tell you that you're less than whole? You have to tell yourselves. You have to write a new story. Usually we will write that at the end of the year, so maybe it's not too late to start now. And then together we can build very strong and solid energy of practice, and that way we can support ourselves, support the Sangha, and support Thai. I like to read for the Sangha a poem I wrote 2 years ago when I came back to Plum Village to attend the 30-year anniversary. And Thai also called me back, and many elder brothers and sisters back to be in Plum Village. I think he was feeling that he's coming to that time. So from there until now, he continued to do that. I feel very grateful that Thầy is still thinking of his students from far away and would like them to come back to enjoy the root temple, enjoy the Sangha. So I'll read this poem in Vietnamese and in English. Now sing the song. I just wrote the song about 2 days ago, so I hope it's okay. Người gọi con về, người gọi con về tới Mai Thôn, giếng xưa vẫn ngọt, nước vẫn trong. Mái chùa đất tổ ngày xưa ấy, văng vẳng chuông ngân tiếng đại hồng. Người gọi con về chốn quê xưa, ngắm trăng hứng nắng hái ngàn sao. Thấy mình bé nhỏ như hạt cát trong muôn vàng tinh hà. Người gọi con về chốn tâm linh, 30 năm ấy vẫn tròn đầy. Tăng thân 4 hướng về tu dưỡng, vun bồi hỷ lạc, hiểu và thương. Tri ân người đã gọi con về, hạnh phúc là đây chẳng tìm xa. 30 năm trước, 100 năm tới, chánh pháp truyền trao tới muôn người. The calling. Thầy, you call me back to Plum Village to taste the sweet and clear water from the source. The root temple of those old days. The sound of the great temple bells echo near and far. You call me back to my true home, to watch the moon, the sun, and the stars. To see myself become the tiny particle of dust. The dust contains the 1,000 galaxies. You have called me back to my spiritual place. 30 years of such accomplishments. The Sanghas from 4 directions coming together to practice. Cultivating peace, joy, understanding, and love. Thank you for calling me back. Happiness is here. I need not to search far away. 30 years before and 100 of years after, the Dhamma continues to spread to many people. So I'll try to sing the song in Vietnamese. And that will conclude my talk for today. Người gọi con về tới Mai Thôn, diên xưa vẫn ngọn nướng vẫn trong. Mái chùa đấng tổ ngày xưa ấy, vang vắng chuông ngân tiếng đại hồng. Người gọi con về chốn quê xưa, ngắm trăng hứng nắng 2000 sao. Thấy mình bé nhỏ như hàn cán trong muôn vàn tinh hà. Người gọi con về chốn tâm linh, 30 năm ấy vẫn tròn đầy. Tán thân 4 hướng về tu dưỡng, vun bồi hỷ lạc, hiểu và thương. Tri ân người đã gọi con về, hạnh phúc là đây chẳng tìm xa. 30 năm trước, 100 năm tới, chánh pháp truyền trao tới muôn người. Sing it one more time. Người gọi con về tới Mai Thôn, diên xưa vẫn ngọn nướng vẫn trong. Mái chùa đấng tổ ngày xưa ấy, vần vẫn chuồn ngân tiếng Đại Hồng. Người gọi con về chốn quê xưa, ngắm trăng hứng nắng 2000 sao, thấy mình bé nhỏ như hàn cán trong muôn vàn tiếng hát. Người gọi con về chốn tâm linh, 30 năm ấy vẫn tròn đầy, tăng thăng 4 hướng về tu dưỡng, vun bồi hỷ làn hiểu và thương. Tri ân người đã gọi con về, hạnh phúc là đây chẳng tìm xa. 30 năm trước, 100 năm tới, chánh pháp truyền trao tới muôn người. Thank you so much for your presence.